I'm gonna be talking about my birth story, like my labor and delivery story with Autumn Rain. Autumn's due date was March 8th, 2020, but she ended up being born on February 27th, 2020. And I'm really not sure if she would have came on her own on that date, but I'm suspecting that she was coming anyways because I really didn't have like a normal labor. Well, nothing is normal with childbirth, but basically like I never felt contractions, went to the hospital, and then my water broke or anything like that. It basically started when I was 38 weeks and 2 days, I believe. Yeah. So I had just washed my hair and dried my hair. And I was getting ready to braid it so that I can wear a wig for when I delivered. And her dad lived in St. Louis at the time. He had bought a ticket to Georgia, back to Georgia for March 1st because he wanted to come like a week before her due date. So if she were to come a couple days early, then he would be here. But that night, Tuesday night on the 25th, I had some serious swelling in my feet and my legs, which wasn't weird for me because I was swelling my whole pregnancy. But every time I brought it up with my obstetrician, he was like, that's normal because I had so much fluid in my uterus. Anyways, basically my mom was kind of concerned based on how my feet were looking because they were bigger than normal. I'll insert a picture if I can find it. But yeah, so I had an appointment for Friday set anyways because I had gotten to the point in my pregnancy where I was going once a week. But I didn't want to wait because I felt like something was off. So I called Tuesday afternoon and asked them could they, fit me in the next day on Wednesday and check me out. And they told me, yeah, just come on in 9 o'clock in the morning and we're gonna make sure everything is okay. So 9 o'clock came that next morning and I went in. They checked my blood pressure, they did my urinalysis, and they checked swelling in my feet. Well, the nurse, she did my blood pressure and my urinalysis when I first got there, like they usually do. But she had to come back in when I was in my room and check it again because she thought she had made a mistake with the blood pressure. And she didn't say anything, she just walked out. Then my OB, she's a female, she came in and she was like, do you know how high your blood pressure is? You're not going home, you're going straight to the hospital. We're gonna admit you and we're gonna induce you tomorrow. And if you don't have her by tomorrow, which was Thursday, then Friday morning you're gonna go in for an emergency C-section because they had the thought that maybe I had pre-eclampsia because of the swelling. I also had protein in my urine from my urinalysis and the high blood pressure. So she checked me. I was 1.5 centimeters dilated, and while she was checking me, I was contracting, but I didn't feel it. Like I didn't have any pain or anything. She was like, you're contracting pretty hard. You don't feel that? And I was like, no. So my mom rushed me to the hospital after we left, and then she dropped me off. She went to go get my bags. I also had to call Autumn's dad and let him know what was going on. He was kind of freaking out because he had his ticket for the 1st of March already, and he didn't know if they were gonna refund him and if he could get a flight in time and everything. So that was another stressor added on top of me possibly having a C-section, which I didn't want because I know the recovery is really hard on top of having to take care of a newborn. So I went in, they checked me in, asked me all the questions, hooked me up to all the vital monitors like blood pressure, monitoring my contractions, monitoring my heart rate, her heart rate. And my OB came over to the hospital and she inserted this, it looks like a tampon string with a white piece of paper on the end, and they put it in next to your cervix on the outside, and it's supposed to soften your cervix. It's called Cervidil, one of those. But yeah, she put that in. She let me know it was staying until it was 12 a.m. they took it out, I think. I'm not 100% sure. So she took it out before Thursday morning, and once she took it out Thursday at 8 a.m. I was supposed to start Pitocin to start my induction. And so on the contraction monitor, I was having some really big contractions, but I wasn't feeling them. And at the time, I didn't have any like pain medication. I didn't have my epidural or anything. So they were kind of baffled on why I wasn't feeling any of my contractions, because they were huge and they were about, I think, 2 minutes apart on their own, like without any induction medicine or anything. So I think around 9 p.m. they also, before I forget, they also had me on muscle relaxer, which had me bedridden for 24 hours, I think. They had me bedridden because they wanted me on muscle relaxers to keep me from having seizures or stroke from my high blood pressure. My blood pressure was high almost the entire time I was in the hospital. So Antonio, her dad, got there around 9 p.m. I think. He ended up calling Delta. They called my OB to confirm that I was in labor early, and once they did, they switched his flights for free. So we're thankful for that. But when he got there at 9 p.m. Wednesday night, that's when my contractions really started to come into effect. Like I really started feeling them, and it hurt a lot. And then they were like 30 seconds apart as well, so I wasn't getting any breaks from them. I asked for some pain medicine. I didn't want to get epidural yet because they had been hammering in the idea that more than likely I wasn't gonna be able to give birth until Friday morning. And I didn't want to have multiple epidurals in case they wore off. I didn't want to get it too early. On top of that, they let me know that once you start Pitocin, your contractions really strengthen and they hurt a lot. So I wanted to wait until right before I started the Pitocin at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. But I wanted to get some type of pain relief because it was getting late and I was exhausted at that point. And I didn't want to be too tired for when I attempted to push if I got to that point on my own. They gave me something, I think it was either Perc 10s or Perc 15s, one or the other, but it was Percocet. And it helped in between contractions. Like it helped me sleep in between contractions, but it really didn't help with the contraction pain. Like I was extremely high and groggy in between the contractions, but as soon as the contractions started, I was very high off the medicine. I was groggy. It felt terrible because imagine like the worst pain in the world you feel, and then when you finally get relief from it for 30 seconds, you're high, you can't control anything, you're out of it. So that's what I was experiencing up until 4 a.m. From like 12 a.m. I got the Percocet and then took out the Cervidil, and then 4 a.m. the Percocet started wearing off, so my contractions were really like taking a toll on me at that point. So I asked them for more painkillers and they gave it to me, but at that point my contractions got so strong it didn't do anything for me. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the epidural because I was supposed to get Pitocin at 8 a.m. anyway, so it was just 4 hours. So I was like, okay, no, I'll go ahead and get it. She checked me right before the anesthesiologist came in, and that was at like 4:30. She checked me 4:30 a.m. on Thursday morning on the 27th, and I was 4.5 centimeters dilated. So from 10 a.m. Wednesday morning to 4:30 a.m. Thursday morning, I only dilated 3 centimeters. So, you know, we thought it was going to be a slow process. The anesthesiologist came in around 4:45 a.m. And, you know, you have to sign the papers, you have to go over the information, they have to make sure you understand it. The entire time while they're doing this, I'm being hit by back-to-back contractions. Like my contractions were piggybacking each other. The nurse even like looked at the sheet of paper that prints out with your contractions on it, and she was like, I don't see how you're dealing with this because you aren't even getting a break at this point. From by the time we got to actually doing it, he gave me a local anesthetic in my back, and then he gave me the epidural. I was out of it. They put a little table in front of me to lean on, and then they put a pillow on it. I was completely laid out across the table because one, I was still out of it from the Percocets, and then two, the contractions had worn me out completely. So he gave me the epidural. It started to take effect a little bit. He said it would take about 30 minutes for it to fully take effect, and he left out of my room around 5 o'clock. So I guess I dozed off because the next thing I remember is the nurses rushing in, my monitors beeping. She was trying to explain through all the nurses rushing in that my blood pressure dropped tremendously. Remember, it was super high at first. It dropped tremendously from the epidural, and Autumn's heart rate dropped from like a 140 something to like 90 something, which is really low. So they were trying to put me on oxygen to try to stimulate her heart rate, and they didn't think I was very far along because they had just checked me like 30 minutes earlier and I was only 4 centimeters. So she ended up checking me again because they thought they were gonna have to rush me into emergency C-section. And when she checked me again at around 5:15, I was completely dilated and 100% effaced. So it was time to push. I was shocked because I didn't expect it to go that fast. She had just told me that I was only 4 centimeters dilated, and I was expecting to be induced in a couple hours. I didn't think that I was gonna dilate on my own. I was trying to call my mom, get her to come back up there because she had went home to get some rest and everything, and Antonio was at the hospital with me. I was out of it. I was trying to tell her to come. Luckily, she understood what I was saying, even though I wasn't making much sense. And then the nurses were snatching my phone away from me, trying to get the oxygen mask on my face and everything. So it was a mess. I was out of it. They called the OB in. The OB was surprised because she thought that I wasn't going to be giving birth until at least Thursday night, if not Friday morning. And on top of that, it was this really weird mix-up. Like, when I got to the hospital, they asked me who my OB is, the clinic, and I told them my clinic name, and I told them my OB's name because I had just saw her that day. Told me she was on call. And when I told the hospital, like, it's Dr. such and such, they were like, oh no, we have Dr. The dude, he works at the office too. I see him sometimes, but he wasn't on call that day. But for some reason, they had him listed as the doctor on call from my office. So they called him in, and he was really upset because he was like, I'm not on call today. It's not me, it's Dr. my female OB, you need to call her. But he ended up coming in anyways, and then my OB came in because she was expecting me to be there. So it was like weird. I had both of them coming to check on me the entire time I was there, and I could tell that they hadn't touched bases with each other because they kept asking me the same type of questions. Like, they thought that they were the only ones seeing me. So it was a mix up at the hospital with that. But she came in, my female doctor, she came in around 5:20 a.m. That's when I started to push. Now, pushing her out was terrible only because it had only been about 15 minutes since I had got my epidural, and it hadn't fully taken effect. And I could feel everything. Like, I felt Autumn's head on my tailbone. I felt everything, and it sucked because I didn't expect to feel it all, But I was also doped up on medication, so it wasn't registering properly into my brain how to push and everything. So everybody was talking to me. Antonio was just standing there. He was tired, a mixture of tired from his flight and the night before he flew in, we stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning on the phone. Nervous, confused, like it was a lot going on. So she told me, you know, once you feel a contraction coming on, you can go ahead and start pushing. I started pushing, and it was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. Like, it was so hard to push her out because every push, it felt like she was going nowhere, and I could feel her head like on my tailbone. So I felt her body pass my pelvic bone, and it felt like it was grinding against it. So I don't know, it felt like forever, but it only took me like 10 minutes to push her out. She was a very small baby. She was only 6 pounds 1 ounce, so it wasn't really hard. She popped out. She looked around at everybody. She wasn't crying. She was just like staring at everybody in the room. And you know, she had a head full of hair. I don't remember looking at her when she came out. I just remember collapsing and falling back asleep from the medication they had me on. Yeah, Antonio, he kind of recorded when she first came out, but we didn't think to record the whole process of me going into labor and everything because one, he wasn't there, and two, it was happening too fast for us to register anything. So we didn't get to record. But I might insert some clips of the hospital room that I took on my phone. And when she first came out and they had her on the table, that's when she started to cry, when they had the bright light in her face. And they were taking her measurements and everything. So yeah, I pushed her out. I had 2 tears, but they were like 1st degree tears. They weren't really bad. I did have to get 2 stitches, but like I said, it wasn't really painful for me. I don't know if my body was in shock, if it was my high blood pressure, but you know, I didn't feel it. I never had problems with high blood pressure in my entire life. If anything, my blood pressure was always a little too low, and I would have problems with like fainting spells and lightheadedness. But at the end of my pregnancy and postpartum, I had really bad high blood pressure. They put me on some high blood pressure medication to try to bring it down, but my preeclampsia results came back after I gave birth and I was negative. So I don't know if it was just my body was in labor and I didn't know it and it was reacting adversely to it, or if something that I ate triggered my blood pressure. But it stayed high for like 4 weeks. My feet were swollen for 4 weeks. After I gave birth, my face was swollen for 4 weeks. That's why I really didn't take pictures of myself and everything, because I felt disgusting. The hospital experience was weird. Like, the nurses are really nice. I love my nurses. It was a nurse. She was so nice. After I gave birth, she gave me a little peck on the forehead and she told me she was so proud of me and everything. But it was just weird because they didn't give me the little bassinet that they give babies to lay in. I didn't get one of those until about 24 hours after she was born. So I had to hold her the entire time. Mind you guys, I'm still bedridden. I had a catheter in to use the bathroom. I couldn't get up for 24 hours after I had the baby because that's when they stop the muscle relaxer and it takes 24 hours to wear off. So I was stuck in the bed the entire time, just holding her. They tried to teach me how to breastfeed her. I was completely flat on my back. Like, they didn't incline me or anything. So it was hard for her to latch on because when she latched on, my whole breast would cover her mouth and her nose. So she couldn't breathe and she wasn't trying to latch. They didn't give her a bath for 24 entire hours. I kept calling, kept asking when they were gonna bathe her. They said they had a lot going on, so she didn't get a bath. She was she had nothing but a diaper on for 24 hours because I wasn't gonna put her new clothes on her and she was still covered in stuff from the inside. I'm not gonna go into detail. But when I ordered food, I was there for a total of 3 days. When I ordered like dinner, they would bring me breakfast and lunch, but they would never remember my dinner. And they did that the entire time I was there. They never brought me dinner. I was supposed to be discharged at 9 in the morning, but both of them came and checked me out, said I was good to go home. The pediatrician came and checked Autumn out, said she was good to go, but it took the nurses almost 5 hours just to print discharge papers. Like, child, I was over it. By the time I left, I was over it. It was a mess. And then I called the lactation nurse on call, but she really didn't help me out, and that kind of affected our breastfeeding relationship. So a month after Autumn was born, I had to give up breastfeeding because I just wasn't producing enough for her. And when she was first born, she had a little bit of jaundice. She wasn't pooping. She didn't poop for like 3 days after her first conium poop. I'm getting tongue-tied. She didn't poop for 3 days, so you know she had very little dirty diapers, like number 1 or number 2. She wasn't really using the bathroom like that, and her pediatrician said it was because she wasn't getting enough in to get anything out. That's it for my labor and delivery story. Other than that, you know, my postpartum journey, I'm gonna do a video on that soon. I'm not gonna include it in this. I don't know how much her dad is gonna be on this channel, you know. I'm not really comfortable on camera, neither is he video wise, you know. So maybe he'll be here to explain how he feels about having a baby, maybe not, we'll see. But thanks y'all for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm gonna try to make some more, do some more interesting content, but as for now, I'll see y'all later.